In a world of endless fandoms, one podcast dares to cover them all. Welcome to Between Two Batcaves, your go-to HQ for everything from comics to the screen and all the IP in between.
Join your hosts, Austin and Jordan, for weekly coverage of the comics, shows, and blockbuster hits that keep us coming back for more. So thanks for hanging with us and being part of the next entry into the Batcave saga.
All right, hello, and thanks for hanging with us today on this episode of Between Two Batcaves. We are your hosts. I am Groston, and he is Dan Jordan.
We are here. We are live. We are in person.
We are tuning in today from Jordan's Batcave. We are covering Mando and Grogu, a movie that we just got out of
less than an hour ago. We are fresh out of the theater. You guys are getting. We haven't talked about this movie.
No, not at all.
You guys are getting our instant reactions.
Yeah, we're testing a new little setup here today too. Trying to get this like dual shot from Jordan's Batcave. If you've been with us for a long time, we've recorded from each other's Batcaves a couple times.
I think one of our first video pods was
was here.
the Stranger Things episodes.
Yeah, no, you're right. And so we're testing a new little format today. Hopefully that works out well. We're feeling pretty good about it. So
I like it.
Please let us know if it works.
We're here. We're sipping a little bit of whiskey. It's a Saturday night, and we're just gonna
saw a Star Wars movie.
We just saw a Star Wars movie for the first time since we were 21 years old. You said that as we were on our way out of the theater, and that struck me to my core.
That is gross. That's been too long. But we're gonna get into all the nitty gritty today about this movie. The good, the bad, the ugly, the adorable, as I put it, walking out of the theater. Before we can do that, we got to cover everything that we always cover on this show.
That we do.
If you like what we're doing over here in Between Two Batcaves, please let us know. A few ways you can do so. First, you can follow the pod, any podcast platform, Spotify, Apple, Amazon Music, Pandora, any of them. Pick one, follow the pod, stay up to date from the latest from Jordan and I. And next, you can share the show with a friend. And I'm going out of order today.
Hey, we're freestyling.
And lastly, you can. What's the third one I always say?
You gotta follow. You gotta share. You gotta
like 5-star rating.
5 stars.
5-star rating and review. That's what all the stores today. If you are watching Between Two Batcaves on either YouTube or Spotify, thank you so much. Been growing on the video platforms recently. That's always fun to see. Hey, shout out. Do you remember we just got our 64th subscriber on YouTube this week?
Yeah, we did. We're growing.
Yeah. So keep that up, guys. That's awesome to see. Click all the buttons over there. There's like, there's subscribe, ring the bell, just anything. Let us know that you are watching us and engaging with us, and let us know what you think of the show.
You know, we have been hitting the make like Grogu and hit the buttons. We've been hitting that on this pod for a while now, and it paid off in spade because we're gonna get into this movie. But there was a lot of Grogu pushing buttons.
I say, if anybody, hopefully, if you're watching this pod, you've seen this movie.
We are gonna be spoiled,
and I want you to recreate the first Grogu button pushing scene from this movie when you are subscribing to the channel.
Which means you need to be shooting rockets accidentally out of your phone.
Yes. Socials. We are on the socials at Between Two Batcaves with the number 2. You can find us everywhere at that handle, except for Twitter. We are at B2 Batcaves. Y'all know that we don't know why, but that's how it is. This is the way.
This is the way.
So follow us over there. We are uploading content daily. Clips from the show. That's been a lot of fun. You've been taking over some of the clip game recently. How have you been enjoying that?
I've been, something to add to the resume is digital content creator now. We're pulling a lot of JPEGs off the internet, and we're just getting in the lab, and it's been a lot of fun. It's interesting to see what people like to engage with.
Yes.
Like the kinds of videos. It seems to be that the hotter the take, the more likely it is to get engagement. And you know what? That's not surprising.
This week, it seems the most engagement we've gotten is from the Thunderbolts Thanksgiving.
A great idea on your part.
Thank you. As well as your Star-Lord job hunt.
The trend there, just a little slice of life for our Avengers.
So people are really, what I'm getting from this is people do not care about our reviews. They really care about our original ideas.
We're ideas, guys.
Yeah, more ideas, guys. But I think that's everything I've got in terms of plugging our stuff.
I think so. I think we're here. It's, what, episode 55? Shout out
55.
Terrell Suggs.
Yep.
We're usually right now kick over to me for a little rundown of what's to come today. But you know what? We're keeping it simple today. We're talking about Mandalorian and Grogu.
Yeah, y'all know what we're talking about.
As far as news goes, we'll be back next week to break down whatever has happened in all of our IP universes that we love. But today we're just talking Mando and Grogu. Next week, Spider Noir, right around the corner.
Noir.
Getting really good reviews. We're going to be watching that show and we're going to be talking about it. And I think that's next on the docket for us because that comes out next week.
Yeah.
We're going to figure out how we're doing that. But that's all I got down the pipe right now. It's we're flying off the cuff. We're talking Mando and Grogu, and next week we're going to talk Spider Noir.
That's a good stretch. We got Star Wars to talk about this week, and we got Spider-Man to talk about next week.
And the week after that, like, we're just getting full speed into summer blockbuster season.
It's like our bread and butter.
Yeah.
Star Wars and Spider-Man.
Yeah, we're coming up on a year on the pod. I got to check to see when our first episode dropped, but
it was June. It was June. I'd say probably late June.
Yeah.
Because the first thing we covered was
How to Train Your Dragon.
How to Train Your Dragon live action remake. Yeah. So, wow, crazy. So, hey, coming up on a year, we'll have to do something fun for a year.
We absolutely will.
So, as you said today, Mando Grogu, that's what's on the docket here. Question for you. How do you want to do this today? Do you want to do a PPP breakdown, or do you just kind of want to freeball this one?
I think it might be to just kind of structure our conversation a little bit. We can go back to the PPP with the understanding that we're going to be freestyling a lot and going off course and taking tangents and see where the conversation takes us. But I like the idea of breaking it down, plot, production, performance, because I do have my opinions on each of those three categories vary significantly. So I think it makes sense to talk about them separately. Before we do that, though, there is a Batcave recap to give. It's not going to be super intensive here because, one, we just saw the movie, and two, there isn't much to tell about the plot of this movie, but we're going to tell you.
So, spoiler alert here for Mandalorian and Grogu, as well as Mando, the show, maybe some other like Star Wars things at large. Spoiler alert for Lucasfilm.
Spoiler alert for Lucasfilm. We might talk Indiana Jones, but likely not. All right, you've been warned. Either go see the movie or keep watching and don't yell at us for spoiling it.
Want to hit us with a Batcave recap?
Let's do it. Let's see how this goes. All right, Batcave recap for Mandalorian and Grogu, directed by Jon Favreau, I believe written by Dave Filoni and Jon Favreau as well.
Yes.
Starring, obviously, Pedro Pascal as the Mandalorian himself, Din Djarin, and Grogu.
And Sigourney Weaver.
Sigourney Weaver is in this movie.
Yes.
As far as other human characters, not many.
Hey, can't forget about Martin Scorsese.
He's in this movie, but he is far from human. Okay, all right, Batcave recap. All right, so we pick back up after the events of season 3 of Mando, where if you haven't been following along, Din Djarin and Grogu have settled into this role of basically independent contractors for the New Republic, where they are taking missions to go hunt down these Imperial remnants that are still out there in the galaxy. We pick up here. Mando and Grogu get sent to go rescue Rada the Hutt, Jabba the Hutt's son. If you maybe saw a little movie called Star Wars Clone Wars back in 2007.
Oof, dude. Yeah.
Something like that. So they have to go rescue Rada in order to get other information from Rada's aunt and uncle. That information will presumably lead Mando to track down one of these Imperial warlords who's out in the wind. That's the plot of the movie. They go on this adventure. They go to rescue Rada. Things spin out of control.
There's double crosses.
Mando decides to save Rada from his murderous aunt and uncle who want the throne for themselves. Along the way, Grogu saves Mando, and they live happily ever after, kind of.
Yeah, no, I think that pretty much sums it up. As you said,
it's a lot of planet hopping. This is like 3 episodes of The Mandalorian.
Exactly. Yes.
Mando is sent on a mission. The mission goes awry. Mando and Grogu have to work together to overcome these obstacles and along the way teach each other and some other people along the way a little lesson about parenthood and growing up and I guess morality.
Yeah, yeah. So I want to start off here with each of us giving a one word encapsulation of what we felt about this movie. One word to describe Mandalorian and Grogu.
Whelmed.
Cute.
Cute. Okay, yeah. Yeah. I think that's an apt word for this. Tell me more. Tell me more about cute.
So this is by far the most kids movie that Star Wars has ever made. It is, and I'm not saying that negatively. There are negative aspects to that.
Mhm.
You and I both during this movie like audibly laughed out loud. Not like ironically, but like there were certain parts that were ironic.
Yeah.
There are certain parts that were genuine, you know. Um, but
Grogu.
yes, oh my goodness, exactly. Grogu picking up the walking stick, and I mean, just dude. I mean, it was honestly just like watching Yoda for Dagobah,
Yeah.
and like they knew that,
Yeah,
you know.
100%.
So like things like that were like a little tongue in cheek. So like you're laughing at that because it's like, come on, guys. But also like you're just like, that's just so dang cute and funny watching Grogu go on his little like solo mission. And a big part about this movie that I actually really liked was the development of Grogu as a character. And we'll get into more detail here in a minute on that, but ultimately, like this movie is feel good. And so when I say cute, I just mean really, I didn't feel like it had much. It didn't have stakes.
Yeah.
The entire movie, I was never concerned about. I was never concerned about Din Djarin's life. I mean,
Yeah.
even when we were led to believe that, he's been poisoned, he's died.
You know exactly what the resolution is going to be there.
Exactly. I never felt any sense of danger, and that's how a kid's movie feels to me.
The thing is though, like there are a lot of movies that are for kids that have stakes and that I think generate a sense of emotion that this movie didn't. And like kids that are geared towards kids or families that take risks that this movie was like just completely averse of taking. So yes, I agree. This is like very much like family kid oriented, but I don't think that has to be mutually exclusive from a movie with like mature stakes and like a coherent story and arcs for the characters.
Definitely agree with you there. Yeah, it lacked in a lot of those areas. Like they could have explored some like deeper themes, and there's like a lot of moments where it was just kind of like almost like you said, it was very episodic, and there were certain parts of it that just kind of felt like, oh, this is like a bit that's going on. Like for example, Grogu, pushing Din into his little mud hut.
Yeah.
With the 3-4
that
times.
Was like the most I think like the most like slapstick humor moment of the movie.
Yes,
which I was okay with that. I that was a cute little moment.
Yes,
in a vacuum, I'll say.
And I'm having a hard time separating my feelings about this movie from my feelings about what I want from a Star Wars film.
Yeah,
which I think is interesting because do I want my Star Wars film to feel cute? I don't think so.
And that I think is the question we should be asking, because I think cute is the right word in a lot of ways. I think it's right in the way that we received it. And also, I think when they started to formulate what this movie was going to be, I think that word cute was probably at the top of their list. The biggest word in their word bubble.
Yeah.
And I take issue with that.
Elaborate. I request elaboration.
I'm trying to think about how to say this. Star Wars, I think, should be cute. But I don't think. Yes. And I think it can be more than just having like a token cute character. I think that like there can be like in the flavor of a project, like it can be a swirl. Exactly. But that is like, I think that's a good example because that show had stakes and it had characters that dealt with like internal conflict about things and overcame obstacles, which like I just don't think happened in this movie. And I think when they were formulating this movie, they were like, all right, we haven't had a Star Wars movie in theaters for 7 years. Rise of Skywalker was a failure because we tried to take risks with Last Jedi and we got lambasted for it. And we decided to basically, make the safest movie possible with Rise of Skywalker. Although, I'm saying that I don't think that's true. I think they backed themselves into a corner with Rise of Skywalker because of the risks they took in Last Jedi, and they listened too much to the critics. And now, 7 years removed from Rise of Skywalker, they were terrified of making that mistake again.
Yeah.
And so they're like, all right, what is the most down the middle idea that we can come up with that will not upset anybody, that will get people into theaters, and that will have people leaving not hating Star Wars as much as they did leaving Last Jedi and Rise of Skywalker. And I think that's cowardly. I think I'm conflicted about it because like Jon Favreau, I think is somebody who like cares and is a creator who is talented and skilled at what he does. And I think Filoni in a lot of ways is too. But they have habits and they have like certain ideas that they just like come back to and continue to mine over and over again, and certain feelings that they like to evoke. And I don't think there was anybody in the room who could stand up to them or challenge them on that and say, yeah, that might be fine, but it's fine what we want to do. And I think like something like Star Wars Starfighter coming out next year is probably a movie that I would have much preferred to be the first Star Wars movie in theaters after Rise of Skywalker, because I think that movie probably will take some risks and do some things differently. And yeah, just like I get the feeling that they made this movie. They're like, all right, we have like 8 really awesome moments that we know people are going to love that we can put Grogu in, whether it is, the force pushing with, or, the moments that he has with Rada, where they're kind of, they're palling around. They had those ideas and they're like, how do we form a story around that? And what they came up with, just like, it wasn't a story.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying. It made me think of 2 questions for you. One being, at any point in this movie, did anything in this movie make you feel genuinely excited? Like, did anything give you that, like, like tingly hair standing up on the back of your neck, like I'm back in Star Wars. This is like, I'm happy to be here. Like, I am amped up to see what's on screen.
There were moments that I was like, this is cool and I'm having fun with this. But when I think about like the way that Star Wars can make me feel and the way that it has made me feel at its best, I don't think there was anything in this movie that like came close to giving me that feeling. What comes to mind for me are like cool visual moments, whether it's one moment that I really like is when they're first arriving on the moon where they're going to find Rada. And you basically have Mando and Grogu like base jump out of the Razor Crest onto this like grimy like casino planet kind of situation. Pleasantly surprised with just like overall the production value of this movie. I thought it looked a lot better than I was expecting. We're going to get into this obviously. But the score, Ludwig Göransson killed it. And
Absolutely.
I thought
killer.
Yeah, I thought the direction, Jon Favreau's direction of the movie, I thought it was pretty good too. Like, it felt like the camera had like liveliness to it, and there were like interesting shots. Like one I think about was when Grogu and the Anzellans are like infiltrating the Hutt Palace, and they're going through one of the tunnels, and you see Grogu kind of like come up into the face of the tunnel, and the camera dollies out and shows like the length of the tunnel and the scale of it. And I thought that was cool. And so like there are moments like that where I'm like, yeah, when we're talking about PP, the plot, production, performance was just something that we like to do here to like break down how we do reviews of movies. Production, pretty solid.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, we can kind of get into the PPP breakdown here in a bit. To answer my own question, I'm going to save my second question towards the end of this conversation. I think I want to circle back to it, but one of the moments for me that did actually make me feel like genuinely excited. It's like, oh man, I'm sitting here watching Star Wars in a movie theater again. Like, was not the opening. So the opening sequence of this movie is basically the trailer that we got, with the assault on the Imperial base. You get the AT-ATs falling down the cliffside, all that stuff. It's the return from that mission. You're returning to this, New Republic base, and basically you get Mando flying in and you just see all of these just ships. People are working on their ships. They are tinkering, they're toying, they're fixing things up. You get all of the crazy Star Wars alien species just out and about walking on this airfield. It looked like Star Wars, and that got me amped up. I was like, oh, okay, here we are. Like, this is where this belongs. On the big screen, you have the ships, you have the mission that just got completed. I mean, shoot, you have Mando, Zeb, and Grogu walking in to, do their mission debrief. And it's like, this feels good. I didn't really have much outside of that moment that got me super excited. I agree, the visuals, there was a lot there. This is a Disney backed Star Wars movie production. They have the money. I don't know what the budget on this is. Do you?
I don't know exactly, but I do know like this relatively low budget compared to a lot of like the last Star Wars movies that have come out. A lot of like the big superhero IP movies, this budget is relatively low compared to a lot of the most recent ones. So I think that was also a huge part of the calculus in making this movie too, is that we can make it relatively cheap and we think that it'll do well enough to be profitable.
Quick prediction corner here. Do you think this movie is going to do well?
I think it'll make money. So I think it'll be a relative success at the box office. I think it'll be successful enough that like Lucasfilm is not scared away from doing something like this again, which is kind of a bummer. As far as like critical reception, I think we have seen that like the critic score on Rotten Tomatoes is not great. Not surprised. Audience score like high 80s last I checked, and I think that'll probably hold. Like I think this is like we talked about. This is a fine movie. It's not going to offend anybody except for the people that have higher expectations, right? Like the general moviegoer is going to go. They're going to have a good time for 2 hours, and they're going to be like, I had a great time at the theaters with Mando and Grogu.
That's the thing that I think is going to get this movie like what it needs. The fact that it appeals to the general audience and it appeals to kids. I mean, you could take anybody to this movie, a Star Wars fan, or, you could take your family out Memorial Day weekend and just go see a good Star Wars movie starring Grogu, who by all means, I mean, pretty much carries this movie. So
I feel like we landed on opposite poles with Grogu.
I think we did. So let's break this down a little bit.
I think it's time to get into it.
PPP.
Yeah.
So, plot, production, performance. We've already mentioned it. Plot here is pretty thin.
And it's thin and the movie's way too long. This movie ends like 3 times.
Yes. There was literally a fade to black moment.
Basically, like everything from the initial escape from the Hutt Palace when Mando escapes with Grogu and the Anzellans and sends the Anzellans and presumably Grogu to escape in their tiny Anzellan ship. And then,
admittedly adorable.
Absolutely adorable ship. Cutest ship in Star Wars lore, I think. And then admittedly, like we get a pretty cool sequence of like, Mando as he's like bearing this wound that's like poisoning him. He's like progressively becoming weaker, but he's still mowing down like the droids that are after him. And you get like a cool sequence of them like going through the forest, like that kind of like pretty fluid, like combat choreography. I thought the combat, like Mando combat choreography in general was pretty good here. But then everything after that, like when Mando goes down with the poison, and then there's like another 40 minutes of this movie of Grogu like tending for him and healing him. And then there's like this weird like alien living in a shack in the woods that Grogu befriends. And
I like that guy.
I did too, but like, what are we doing with this? Like, what is the point of any of this?
Not a clue. Not a clue.
And here is what I think Jon Favreau and Dave Filoni would tell us is the point of not only that sequence, but like the movie as a whole, is that they would tell us this is a story about, it's a father-son story, right? It's Din Djarin and his son Grogu. And it's a story about like Din coming to accept that like he is not always going to be there to protect Grogu. And Grogu, I guess, like they would say, like this is about Grogu maturing and growing and like stepping into like a more of like a caretaker role, like a character with more agency in the story. But like, I just don't think they did nearly a good enough job of like laying the foundation for that, because like, yes, like Grogu, like it's really sweet, like seeing what he does for Din to like nurse him back to health and everything. There's nothing that leads me to believe that he wouldn't have done that at the beginning of this movie. for Din. And so I think one of the biggest problems is that we have two characters who are the two main characters, Mando and Grogu, and the movie like more or less in the same spot as where they started. At least that's how I felt from it. And like maybe that's not the case. I think like there is an argument to be made that there is character growth, but I just I didn't feel it. There wasn't any didn't feel like there were any real obstacles that they had to overcome that I didn't think that there was never any tension there.
No, you're right. There wasn't really ever any tension there. So you said that like we fell on opposite sides of the coin, it seems, for Grogu. I think I fell more so on the side of I felt like this was a big developmental movie for Grogu as a character, and I'm interested as to why so I mean there's basically there's a couple of different plots going on here. I'm kind of looking at it in terms of there's the Din plot and then the Grogu plot, because Grogu basically gets his own episode, if you want to split it up
the last third of the movie or so.
Yeah. Where, he has to go out and he has to save his dad. He is with him in this forest, and he has to save his life.
While they're also hiding out from the Hutts and all of their which is one slight nitpick or point of confusion for me. The twins are dead at this point, the Hutts are dead at this point, but all of their underlings are still just doing their bidding, which is I would have liked. I understand that there's a whole criminal underworld system in place. I would have liked a second one interaction, but between whoever would have taken the Hutt's place to say this is still an operation that's in place before the New Republic comes and bombs them off the face of the planet.
What do you think about the Hutts being the primary antagonist in this? Were you expecting that?
I mean, before was I expecting it before they told us that? No. Did it work for me? Also, no. I don't know, man.
I mean, I think so. First, I'll say I did not expect Rada to be nearly as big of a player in this movie.
He's the third lead.
I was. First of all, makes a lot more sense as to why Jeremy Allen White was cast in this.
Because they just have him speaking in clean English as.
Yep. But I mean, yeah, he was, like you said, he was third lead. And I gotta say, I actually liked the Rada character. I think that his whole, shtick of I don't want to be my dad. Do you know what it's like to live in the shadow of Jabba the Hutt? I just want to be my own man. And he starts off the movie, in this gladiatorial fighting ring. I'm trying to make his own name. I liked the sentiment that he had of okay, well, I came here and they booed me, and now they cheer for me. And he genuinely felt good about that, because he was making a name for himself separate from his father's sins of the past that have now cast a shadow over him. Then to evolve throughout the movie to the point of, well, now I'm a free slug. And I mean, dude, I mean, Grogu and Rada's relationship, I mean, you can't tell me that wasn't cute.
It was very cute.
It was adorable. I really liked his character. And I just using the employing the use of his aunt and uncle as the primary protagonist in this movie, as the driving force behind the plot, it just felt a little shallow. But at the end of the day, I mean, it's like I said, I'm having a hard time separating this from a Mando story as opposed to a Star Wars story, because in terms of a Mando story, kind of makes sense.
Yeah, and one of the things that I was surprised about this movie is the log line was pretty heavily focused on the fact that they're hunting down Imperial remnants.
Yes.
That was just kind of a pretext for the story they wanted to tell, because ultimately that plot point was just that. It was just a plot point. There's no real tie-in to the galaxy at large, at where the New Republic is, where the remnants of the Empire are, except for this one guy he's hunting down. And think that would have been a good choice if instead of doing that, like with the time, like the capital, the time, and the resources that they had, instead of doing that, like put it into like giving us more interesting character beats for our main characters. But because we didn't have that, I'm kind of left sitting here like, well, there was no real meat on the bone for the character development. And I can't even really turn to like the Star Wars world building side of it for fulfillment either, because there wasn't much of that. It's just interesting.
I mean, so yeah, you're right, because they set up this idea that, you know, Mando has been employed to hunt down, you know, Imperial remnants, and this movie basically takes place over the course of one mission. That in and of itself is actually pretty Star Wars. You know, the entire movie being one mission. That feels right. It's just what doesn't feel right is everything in between. The lack of like real character moments, I think, is a major fault of this movie. But so we're circling back to Grogu because that's how this started. You know, you said that we're leaning differently here. I feel pretty positive about what they did with Grogu in this movie. I feel like they developed him in a way that by the end of this movie, like, I mean, I feel like we see Grogu level up, basically. You know, last we saw him in Mando season 3, and
But correct me if I'm wrong. Didn't we have that as a story beat in season 3 of Mando? Didn't he have to go save Din at the end of season 3 when they were on Mandalore? And
yeah, no, you're
even
right.
back
Yeah,
to
yeah.
season 1, like thinking about like power level, like leveling up and like his efficiency with the Force. He has the moment in this movie where he saves Rada from falling into the pit by force lifting him out. But thinking back even to season 1, like he saves Din from the Mudhorn and force lifts it and throws it. And so it's like, I don't think there was enough growth even from like a power level standpoint from Grogu. And like he does have the agency in like the final third of the movie where he saves Din and protects him. But like before that, I just don't think he was much of a character. Like he doesn't have anything to do except to be cute, like do really cute things and like funny things, be on Din's shoulder, do a force push every once in a while, like eat a cookie. Like I'm just hard pressed to like think back now to like anything of consequence that he did that wasn't like an action.
I think maybe a good way to put it is I felt like Grogu just had more intentionality than what we've seen before.
I
with
think
him.
actually I do think that's a good point. I think he had like more of a sense of purpose maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Intentionality, purpose.
Yeah.
I think the utilization of him in like his own episode, I think that was actually like an enjoyable sequence of the movie.
It was. I don't know why it was in the movie, but like as we were sitting through those scenes, I was enjoying it. Like as he's like using his Yoda walking stick going through the forest, or like meditating on the log, or stealing the fish from our guy. Which like
Swamp Dweller.
Swamp Dweller. That's good. Swamp Dweller. Like
He was definitely catfish, right? Like he was a anthropomorphized alien catfish.
I think that's probably right. I'm curious about who was voicing him. It sounded kind of familiar.
Dude, I agree. Yep, I don't know. Be curious to look that up. But I think what you just said actually is a really good point. I think there's a lot of moments in this movie that while watching it, you're like, I'm having fun with this and I'm enjoying this, but I don't know why we're doing this. And I feel like that was almost like a constant feeling throughout the movie. And it's hard because like you're like, oh, like I'm having a good time right now. But also I don't know like why I'm watching this at this moment.
Yeah. I think that just like gets back to like my big takeaway is just like, this wasn't the right idea for the first Star Wars movie in 7 years. To kind of at least wrap up for now our discussion on plot, we leave off at this movie. Mando and Grogu are off in their Razor Crest. Mando has given Grogu the agency to push them into hyperdrive for the first time, so we got some growth there. My question to you, when and where do we see Mando and Grogu next? And maybe I don't know if that's where we want to talk about it here in connection with plot. I'm just thinking about like the plotting of this story of Star Wars that we're in right now.
No, I think that's important because, yeah, when do we end up next? Because, I mean, this could be the end of their story. It could be. Do I think it will be? No. Why? Because Grogu prints money. But could they leave Mando and Grogu with this movie, never revisit them, and us be content with the Mando Grogu like saga? Sure. I think they could. Do we need anything else from these two characters? No. And just realistically, how much longer is Pedro Pascal going to want to play this character? I mean, I'm sure he's getting a pretty penny from doing this, so that's something to consider.
Quite frankly, probably not the most time or effort intensive job either. Like, yes, he had to show up on set a little bit for this movie with the scenes where he had no helmet on. But for the most part, this man could just hop in a studio and record his lines.
Were you surprised by how little of Pedro Pascal got in this movie?
No, I thought it made sense that we got like the one big set piece where he has the helmet removed. I think if you do it more than once, it becomes kind of like diminishing returns and also starts to get like real like jump in the shark as far as the plot goes to like manufacture moments where he loses the helmet. I was okay with it. And I thought like they had like the credits, when the credits rolled, obviously Pedro Pascal's first build. Second and third build were the suit performer for Mando and the stunt performer, who the names are escaping me right now. But like I think they deserve to be mentioned because like their performances, the body language performances from those two actors was like top notch, and it always has been.
Oh yeah, you mentioned it earlier. The combat scenes were phenomenal. But to answer your question, I genuinely don't know. I mean, obviously, next movie we're getting a Starfighter. No. After that, like maybe we're going to be getting another trilogy. I mean, do we see them again in another season of this show? Do we ever get the Filoni-verse crossover movie? I mean, I don't have an answer. And like I said, I think like I would actually be okay if this is the last that we saw with them, just because I don't know how much further you can go with these characters before it starts to get old, because eventually we're going to get to the point, and I think we're actually now starting to get to the point where it's like, okay, I need more from Grogu. Like I said, I liked what I got from him from this movie, but it's like, okay, am I going to see him start to train and, become, better in the Force, become more of a Mandalorian? Like, I'm getting to the point where it's like, okay, I want to see Grogu do some stuff, like some genuinely badass stuff.
Here's a proposal. Obviously, we know Grogu is 100 years old, something like that. Still a baby. Their species age very slowly. Theoretically, could meet back up with Grogu 300 years from now, when he's like an adolescent and has like the ability to communicate and have more agency. That would be interesting to see, to revisit a Grogu who has watched his father, age and die, and now he's been on his own for however long. Like, what is the universe? What does the galaxy look like at that point? What is Grogu's place in the galaxy hundreds of years from now? I think that could be potentially interesting. I don't know if it fits into anything that they're doing.
I do think that it's possible that, I think it's inevitable that eventually we get another Star Wars trilogy. I mean, we get a follow-up to, the Rise of Skywalker, probably set way down later down the future, separated from the Skywalker line a little bit. I do think it's possible that maybe we see Grogu in that trilogy as kind of like that legacy character, like the one tie back to, the Skywalkers with his connections to Luke and Ahsoka and just the old era of Star Wars. I think that he could be that type of character, and I think that would be a good use for that character. But then they lose the cuteness factor, and that's a problem.
Slight tangent. Did you listen to the House of R primer pod with Damon Lindelof?
I did.
When he talked about what his Star Wars movie was going to be, that he was let go from, he basically said the movie that they were creating was going to focus, it was going to take place after the sequel trilogy, and it was going to be like a meta take on like Star Wars fandom, basically. And like, basically like, they were going to tackle like the Protestant Reformation of the Force and like grapple with nostalgia as compared to like pushing things forward and progressing the story. And man, that would have been so interesting to see.
Yeah, I'm shocked that they shut that one down.
Shocked they replaced it with cute.
So let's move into a little bit of the production here.
Let's get a little more positive.
So, production wise, this movie, we always got to break this down into, how it looks, how it sounds. And I think both of those are great. I have genuinely no complaints with how this movie sounds. The Ludwig Göransson score was phenomenal. Hearing the Mando theme, we saw it in Dolby Atmos. That was
The moment where I was like, this is Star Wars.
Yeah, no, that felt
it's that sound.
And we talked about this a little bit on our way out. The new techno vibe that he put to the Mando score.
Yeah, that was. We were just listening to that as we were getting set up for the pod, just like
dude, that was
in the air. I'm a big fan of what they're doing, and it felt like a cinematic score for Mando.
No, I agree. Yeah, I loved the score here. I just love Star Wars sounds, the ships, the blasters, just everything. The creatures, the noises that they make, it just all that was great. The look of this movie, visuals. I mean, I'm a sucker for just seeing different planets on Star Wars.
Yeah,
I really liked the Hutt planet and that environment that we got there. I like the creature. There's a variety of creatures in this movie that I really like. I forgot what they're called, but the snake-like creatures on the Hutt planet that Din had to fight in the pit, I thought were really cool. I really liked the droid army that the Hutts had, like the design of those droids. Dude, that was so cool. That was so cool. I have a major complaint though about the visuals of this movie, and it's at the Hutt planet. So we have these two sentinel almost droids that are guarding the entrance to the twins' chamber room. Are the Hutts incestuous?
100%. I don't know.
Okay, cool. Yeah, that was weird.
And the twins, and they're just slapping their slimy bodies on each other.
Ridiculous. So you get these two sentinel droid that they big, scary, whatever. When they activated in the third act of this movie, and Din Djarin has to fight them, I almost feel like it looked like it was claymation. They were definitely goofy. I'd be curious to know whenever you see this movie again, probably on Disney Plus, but just yeah, focus in on that scene. It's just the way that they're moving and the way that they're animated. It's something about it. Just how I just couldn't get out of my head. I was like, this feels like claymation to me. It stood out to me. So major complaint there. But in terms of everything else, I think everything else looked great. Mando suit looks great as always. I really like the look of Zeb. We got to see him walking around. We got to see him fighting a little bit. I thought that was super cool. A lot of practical set pieces in this. Obviously, Grogu is practical at some points. The Anzellans are practical at some points. You get some droids that are definitely practical walking around. I like it because you can tell when things are practical and it stands out, but in a good way, because it's just it's just makes it feel real.
Yeah, and I think going back to season 1 of Mando, one of their calling cards was how they kind of were pioneers of the volume, using the volume as a VFX tool in a lot of really cool ways, especially way back in 2019 when that was new. That grew stale very quickly. I think this movie did not feel like it was shot on the volume in a very good way. From things when we first get onto the moon planet and Mando's walking down the street and there are dozens of civilians walking around in the open air market, stuff like that, where it just kind of makes those settings feel lived in and real. Kind of that Andor flavor. I thought that was really well done. And then I want to balance out your strong criticism of that the Sentinel scene with a highlight visual moment for me early in the movie when they're coming in from the first mission, and we get that sequence that you talked about where you're seeing a Delphi base in action. You get the Flight of the Condors visual homage of the X-Wings coming in framed like in front of the sun.
Yeah.
And just like a very cool visual call out that like classic like Vietnam War movies like love to do that. You hear in the background.
Dude, and just like, I mean, I hate to use this term, but like, dude, like Mando is like just the definition of aura farming, you know? I mean, just like
Yeah.
there's so many, like when he gets his his I forget the
Like
name of
that
it.
the blaster, the rifle. Yeah.
And you're just like, oh, let's go. Like that was good. Yeah,
This
just
movie
like,
had those moments of just like, we're conveniently going to give you back your gear from season 1 that everybody loves so much, with the Razor Crest being like a payment from the New Republic to him, to the rifle just like happening to be in that gunrunner ship that he picks up.
not only that, he literally says, I can bring you in hot, or I can bring you in warm, or I can bring you in cold.
And he said it like, you know, he said that with a smirk.
Oh yes, absolutely. Like
It worked.
it's I just I will agree with you that I don't think that this was the right move for the first movie back in theaters from Star Wars, and I think that it will be criticized pretty harshly in that lens. But I do like it when Star Wars takes swings to do things differently and show us things differently from what we're used to. And I do think that this movie did that, like in terms of what they showed us, the planets, the creatures, all that stuff. You know, even though like there are things that we know, like the Hutts, for example. Like, yeah, we know the Hutts, we know Jabba the Hutt. When's the last time you saw a Hutt with a 6-pack? You know, before tonight. Like, buddy, listen, so, but the creatures. What did you think about the dragon snake, the white dragon snake?
Oh, like the like this movie's Rancor, basically.
Yeah,
I thought it was cool. I mean, I enjoyed that set piece of Mando fighting him. I thought like the use, like using the water. I think that they did another like good directing point for Jon Favreau is like the way that scene was directed. It was coherent. The way he's like moving underwater and like through like the roots and everything. I think it would have been really easy for that to get really confusing and for us to get lost in that scene. I thought it was directed well, and like I thought it staged well, and I thought like that fight was entertaining and fun and like ended in a satisfying way.
Okay, two questions. One, favorite fight scene.
Okay. Favorite fight scene off the cuff. I actually really liked when they go into the salt shack, and you just kind of get like that brawl scene in this
That
bar.
dude was obsessed with salt.
He said, "You want some salt? We got salt. It's rationed here, so it's valuable." But I don't know. I just like a showcase of like the Mando hand-to-hand combat stuff and like being resourceful, using like just random objects that he finds in the bar, like bullseye-esque kind of. I enjoyed that. I mean, the stormtrooper fight scene when they go and they nab coin was pretty cool. Just from like a like a action like motion standpoint, from a story perspective, I don't know if it really makes sense, but like if you don't think about it too much, that was pretty fun. Staged well. Getting to see Zeb do like the only thing that he actually gets to do in this movie.
What are your thoughts on the gladiatorial fight scene where Din and Rada have to team up against all the other creatures?
Didn't really hit for me.
Overwhelming.
It was
a lot.
And it just like we talked a lot about how they did a very good job making this movie feel grounded and real. I did not feel that in that the gladiator fight scene. It just felt like that was like the most volume-esque moment of the movie for me.
It was like overstimulating, but I did like the look of that moon, like the environment there. You know, that like
Love that planet. It reminded me of Coruscant, actually. Like early Attack of the Clones, Coruscant, when Obi-Wan is trying to track down the assassin. That's what it reminded me.
Yeah, totally.
And you got like a chase sequence in there too with Rada and the speeder.
Yeah, exactly, man. Guys got to try, right? I think my favorite. I mean, it's got to either be the opening, you know, Mando fighting stormtroopers on the AT-ATs.
That one didn't hit for me. I think just because I had like seen it so many times in the marketing. I was just like,
tough.
Okay, I've seen this whole sequence.
And besides that, I like your call out of fighting the stormtroopers off of the estate, from the estate trying to escape them. But I think like I really enjoyed the original fight scene of Din mask off fighting like the snake creatures in the pit. I thought those things were pretty creepy, and like at first I thought they were just kind of like just like snakes, and then I realized that they have tools, and they're actually like kind of like
humanoid.
yeah. And that he like took their tool and started like picking them off one by one. I thought that was a pretty good scene, that led into the big dragon scene. So I like that. My second question is, what is your favorite creature from this movie? Like what is your favorite just alien thing, droid crawling around, something from this movie that we really haven't seen before that's not one of the main characters?
I don't know if this counts because we technically have seen him before, but Embo. I thought Embo was really cool in this movie as like the kind of the heel.
Yeah, that's a good one. I think mine has got to be Catfish Swamp Dweller.
Catfish Swamp Dweller? That's a good name.
I don't know what purpose he really served.
He was just chilling.
Dude, I liked his vibe.
And he was like he said, "Hey, little guy, come on, come get a fish."
He said, "I think you're the guy who stole my fish."
Gives him another
fish. I liked him. I liked the way he looked. I like what he was doing out there. How do we talk about the performances in this movie?
Let's use performance first. Like obviously, we got to talk about a little bit more about Pedro and like the performance of Din that we've talked about a little bit already. Let's do that last, and then let's go through like the other like 5 characters in this movie. Sigourney Weaver's character, complete dud for me. Not a character. She just a plot point, just a plot progressor. She was just the character that's there to be like, this is the mission that you're going on. Like, here's the information. Here you go. Nothing else. Did nothing else for me. What about you?
Yeah, I mean, it's weird because like it's like she was necessary for like the way that they wrote this movie. Jin had to get his mission from somebody, but like I didn't feel anything when she came in at the end of the day to help save Din. So
nothing at all.
Yeah, nothing really came from that character for me. Yeah.
Let's talk about Zeb a little bit more.
Yes.
I want to hear from you first because you have the history with Zeb from watching Rebels. I have not watched Rebels.
Yeah, I'm a Zeb head, dude. I love Zeb.
Tell me how Zeb hit for you here.
So, I mean, was he used quite as much as I wanted him to be? No. Do I like to think about the fact that Din and Zeb have been like out running missions together? Yes, I do. So I'm kind of like attached to that idea of, okay, well, like it's cool that Zeb and Din and Grogu have been out, kind of like as a little squad. I think he looked fantastic, and I like their play together. Do I think that he was a super effective character? No. But he's just one of those characters that I'm just happy to see on screen. I do think that, like, I do wish that he would have maybe been part of, like, the third act of this movie a little bit more.
Involved on Nalhada with Mando and Grogu, like if he was stranded there with them or something.
Yeah. Or we got more of, like, I don't know, like a shot back to him, like, helping plan the rescue mission or something. So it does suck that he ultimately, like, again, like, there's a lot of characters in this movie that were characters, but, like, they just weren't. And he's one of those, but I will take any Zeb time on screen just because Zeb Aurelius is fantastic. He's such a good character. So to see him in the light of day of a live action movie is cool. And like I said, I know I'm attaching to the idea that, hey, they're running these missions together, and they have been, and they got their little crew going. I think Zeb and Grogu are real good pals. I really do. So I wonder how Zeb feels about the developing relationship between Rada and Grogu. I wonder if he's a little jealous.
Definitely jealous. I'm going to say something here, and please don't come across this room and hit me. I think what they did with Zeb in this movie is like a microcosm of Star Wars at its worst. Not because I don't like Zeb. I just don't know Zeb. Like, this movie does not tell us who Zeb is as a person at all. There is like, the only character trait that he has is like that he has banter with Mando. Aside from that, he is just like the same thing with Sigourney Weaver's character. He is there to pick Mando up, to take Mando places, and that's about it. And like he does have like his one showcase, like a few like 30 seconds of like fighting through the estate to go get coin. He takes down some stormtroopers. Cool stuff. Love that. But I think this is like where we see Star Wars. This is like Zeb is not a glub shitto, but this is an example of what people call a glub shitto, where here's a character you guys love. I have no problem with that. But if you're going to do that, there has to be something more than that. And it felt like this, like Zeb in this movie could have been any faceless, nameless character. But like, if you're going to give Mando a partner in that way, like he should have some kind of dimensionality to him. And they decided that they didn't have to do that because like they could just coast off of like Rebels' wake with Zeb.
No, you're totally right about that. And like you said, it's Filoni and Favreau. They have not only themes that they like to play, but they have characters that they like to play. And those two they're very proud of their characters. And I think this is a good example of that. You know, they're like, oh, okay, well, we have Zeb. We like Zeb. We know you all like Zeb. If you know who Zeb is, then you're excited to see Zeb and you're going to attach to that character because of what you know from him from a previous project, just like I am. And if you don't know Zeb, then, okay, well, then he's Mando's chauffeur. And that lacks dimensionality. So I recognize that I like having Zeb in this movie because of my previous experience.
And there's nothing wrong with that. That's what we do. That's why we do this stuff, man. Because we like have connections to these projects and these characters and these stories, and like we should.
And it goes back to the idea. It's just another way of it being cute. Just the nostalgia play. Because at this point, Rebels is nostalgic. Who else do we got? Really?
You talk about the Martin Scorsese character.
I actually really do.
Because he's probably has like the 5th most screen time of any character in this movie.
First of all, I want to try some of this guy's street food.
It looks really tasty,
dude. That sandwich,
the sauce that he put on there, it looked like he had like some.
Dude, there was definitely pickled onions on that sandwich.
No, that character surprisingly was like the most 3-dimensional character in the movie. Like you get some motivation from him there. Like he's under the thumb. He's under the thumb of Lord Janos. He's
something along.
He's under the thumb of coin of like the Imperial guy there that they don't actually know is Imperial, and he seems like he's just trying to eke out a living, and he has like I enjoyed that. It was a fun. First, it was just like the stunt of like having Martin Scorsese in this movie after like his criticisms of like Marvel movies and like IP superhero stuff, to get him in here in like this like comedic role, I think is fun. It's like Scorsese being able to have fun with it, which I respect, and just like a nice little wink and nod, I think, from the creators on the movie too.
I also just like his so adamant about just like no, I don't want your money.
Yeah.
I don't want it.
I didn't do anything. I don't want that.
And just Mando just being persistent, and just him closing down his shop, and Mando coming. It's like, I don't want your credits. I ain't telling you nothing. You heard nothing here. Just
it's good stuff.
It was pretty good.
I hope that hope he's okay.
Dude, I hope that he takes those credits that Mando gave him, and he uses those credits. He gets those kids something nice,
Those 12 kids that he has.
Yeah, 12. Hey, I got 12 massive feet, smaller than him. They're small. They're small.
Oh man, any other characters in this movie? We talked about Sigourney Weaver. We talked about Zeb. We talked at length about Mando and Grogu.
And we've already talked about the Hutts, really.
Yeah.
The twins and Rada.
I like Jeremy Allen White. Let's talk a little bit just like specifically about his performance. So we basically get him just like doing his voice, and they just like modulate it to make it a little bit deeper.
Yeah.
The choice, first of all, in general, to have the Hutts speak English. Interesting.
Get it?
They did
it.
Yeah.
I don't like it.
Agreed. I think that if they wanted to take a risk, they could have just had like the Hutts continue to speak in Huttese and like let the like motion capture performance that I'm pretty sure Jeremy Allen White did for the character like convey what he wants to convey, because like having just like seeing Mando like casually converse with a Hutt and like have those conversations, that is a moment where I'm like, this doesn't feel quite like Star Wars. Like, this doesn't feel quite right. But aside from that, aside from the choice, I did quite enjoy Jeremy Allen White in this movie.
I thought I mean I thought it was weird because it's one of those. It's like,
why is he doing this?
why did they get Jeremy Allen White? Why is Jeremy Allen White doing this? It could have been anybody. It wouldn't have really mattered, but it is Jeremy Allen White, and I like Jeremy Allen White, so I'm not complaining. It's just weird that that's where it fell. But no, I mean, I like the character, and I actually genuinely connected with like some of like what the character's motivations were. And I think that Jeremy Allen White, through his distorted voice, conveyed the character of Rada quite well. So I actually really like that character in this movie. So no complaints really from Rada.
Yeah, I agree. Aside from like having him speak clean English, like that choice. Aside from that, I thought a highlight of the movie. Like every time he was on screen, I was smiling and enjoying it.
All right, we got to talk about it. The Anzellans.
Let's talk. I don't have much to say. I must say they're cute. I do love an Anzellan. I got no problems with the Anzellans. They're tiny. No, they ain't got no problem. They're like, I enjoy the Anzellans.
Dude,
like,
it's just like the way that
I like
they speak.
Ewoks. I like
It's just
Anzellan.
great. It's just the way, like the blah, 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 and then they just like have we go back, man. Hey, baby, come on, baby.
It's like the Minions and Monsters trailer that we saw.
Oh my gosh! Yeah.
Imagine an Anzellan Minion crossover.
Just you wait. So that takes us to our main two. We got Mando. We got Grogu. Grogu. Thoughts on just like the overall portrayal of Grogu?
I like the puppetry. I thought was great.
Yeah.
Like I thought like really intricate work with it too. Like whether it's like him like scaling a wall or like showing emotion in his face and with his eyes, or like interacting with things like practical sets, things like that. Like really, you could tell they put a lot of time and effort and money into giving us like a tangible Grogu, which I think super important to like keep this movie above water, because if you didn't have like that believability from like a production standpoint, I think I would have been even more out on this because I didn't have anything to latch on to character wise.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think that they utilized the fact that this is a movie with that movie budget well with the Grogu character.
Do you think that he should have said a word in this movie?
I'm glad you brought that up. Do I think that he should have? Did I want him to? Yes, I did. Do I think that he should have? Probably not.
They can't have him talk.
They
can't, and that's a big problem.
Yeah,
that's a big problem for Star Wars.
That breaks that breaks the character.
Yeah.
The character of Grogu doesn't talk.
He's just gonna be perpetually baby.
Yeah. Which is the problem that they turned himself into, as we just talked about previously in this episode.
Like there's like so much potential, like story potential to mine from like a rebellious teenager Grogu. Like that could be so great, but Mando will be dead by then because he's going to be 400 years old.
So do I think is character? Still, I think that we got some good practical effects, and also the CG for Grogu worked well in this movie too. I thought that just like everything we got from Grogu looked and felt good.
I think, I agree. Overall, I think the CG in general was pretty good. One of like the moments that didn't work for me were when they were on the walker in the very beginning of the movie, like scaling down the cliffside.
Yeah.
Like that choosing that to be like the opening set piece for the movie, kind of weird. It didn't. I think that was like one of the weakest points, like visually.
So let's talk about Mando. Let's just incorporate this into all three components of Mando. The Pedro, and then the suit actor and the stunt actor. All three of those for the Mando character.
I think like some of the best work that the three of them have done with Mando, specifically from the suit and the stunt performers. Pedro, like, good. I think he was good. He didn't like, there just wasn't much for him They
Nothing
didn't
new from Pedro
no,
in this
there was,
movie.
they didn't give him the opportunity to show much range there, which is like I wasn't expecting them to. But like especially like the stunt choreography, the fluidity of like the motion that they're able to pull off with like the Beskar armor on, I thought was really cool. Again, just like the aura farming, at like just that man has perfected the art of walking.
He really has.
Um,
He really has.
And yeah, I mean, it's like Mando is a character who, anytime he's on screen, your eyes are going to be on him, and he's going to do some cool stuff. From a character perspective, I am starting to get worried that like, what is there left for him to do?
That's what I'm saying. Like when we were talking about earlier, like when do we see them again? I don't know if we have to. I don't know if we
Like-
have to.
They can't make Grogu talk, and they have to sell Mando helmets. So
Yeah.
like I hate to do it from like a cynical perspective, but from like a business perspective, Mando and Grogu sell. They sell toys. They
Percent.
sell toys.
They sell toys more than pretty
Yeah.
much anything right now.
Like we're gonna see him again. I don't know. I don't know if it's gonna be a season 4 of Mando, or like are they gonna
That's
show
kind of
up
what
in
I'm starting to think.
are they gonna show up in something else? Like we have Ahsoka season 2 coming out at the beginning of next
It
year.
could
I
be-
think
they
that's
could
gonna be
pop up in that.
unrelated. I think this movie before like season 3 of Mando, I think this was going to be like the Thrawn crossover Mandoverse movie.
Yeah.
And you can see the bones of that there with like hunting Imperial remnants.
Yep.
And you can see how they just completely like abandoned that and replaced it with Rada. So I don't know. I don't know where it goes from here.
Quick character that just popped in my head. Just quick thoughts on, and it sucks because this is a character that we are supposed to know, and his name escapes me right now. What did you think of the other bounty hunter?
That's Embo.
Embo. Yeah.
I thought he was cool. Again, like not a character, just a bounty hunter who is there to be like the antagonist to Mando. In that role, I thought he was a very cool character. His dog,
Cool. Dog was
and his
scary.
dog very well trained.
Yes, very well trained.
So I like that. Like I thought Mando kind of went out weak when he first gets captured by Embo at their house.
Yeah.
He, like steps on a trap basically. But like aside from that, I think like getting that sequence of Embo and his dog like infiltrating their house in the night, like the middle of the night in the rain, and you have Mando like sending Grogu and the Anzellans out, and like they're out there in the rain, and like you get some very cool combat choreography between the two of them there.
The fight between Embo and Din in
The throne room.
the throne room with like Embo using like the little like scythes and Din using the swords. That was a cool fight scene.
Bummer for me there is that I just think like by that point in the movie, like I had already started to get to the point of like this movie's way too long and like this needs to be wrapped up. So like even though like I think in a vacuum like
It was
that
long.
sequence is like really well executed, by that point in the story I just like wasn't as in it anymore.
Yeah, I hate the fact that I did this, but at one point I did check my watch. I was just like I was like, oh man, we
Yeah.
still have 40 minutes left in this.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
And it's like this is like this movie moves. Like
Yeah,
there is no
it's-
downtime. Like Mando does something, he goes on a mission, he comes back, and he's immediately sent off one planet to another, like constantly in motion, which is like, that's pretty much how the show is. Like every episode, you're going to another planet, but just like breakneck pace in a long movie is like a weird combination.
So obviously we gotta score this thing and all that. But let me ask you a question here, and this is the second question that I was going to ask you in the beginning. What does this movie do for Star Wars as a franchise?
I think it doesn't bury it. I think it gives them the opportunity now to go into next year with Starfighter, like with some kind of solid footing underneath them to be able to say like, okay, you know, like we can make movies again and not have them be complete failures. So I think this is like hopefully a good stepping stone to getting back to like taking big swings in the theaters with Star Wars. What else does it do for Star Wars? I don't know. I don't know if it does much else.
Yeah, I don't know if this is going to like, I don't think this by any means is going to like instill confidence in anybody that might be hoping like this was a big comeback.
I think this is like a movie where if you like Star Wars and you like Mando, you'll probably like the movie. If you don't, I think you'll probably hate it.
I'm wondering if, I mean, there's no if. The Star Wars fandom is what it is. And so there's going to be a lot of people out there saying that like, oh, like Star Wars is out. Like we've lost the plot, you know, Star Wars just, we're out on Star Wars. I think there's going to be a lot of people that say that. It makes me nervous for Starfighter next year, not because I think Starfighter will be a bad movie or anything. It makes me nervous for people getting out to see a Starfighter. I wonder if this will make people lose confidence in what Star Wars can be in terms of solo stories. And it makes me nervous for ideas moving forward that revolve around plots outside of the Skywalker family. Because I don't know how much footing there really is for movies that exist outside of that now. And Mando and Grogu, I think, is the second most successful Star Wars franchise outside of anything with the Skywalkers. I know they're still like, tangential, but you have, Luke and Darth Vader, and you have Mando and Grogu. I mean, it is what it is. They are the tentpoles of Star Wars. And this isn't working as well anymore. So that makes me nervous. It's not moving the needle in the positive direction. I don't think it's necessarily moving in the negative direction. I just hope that that latter statement is true.
Yeah, and I will say I've been pretty negative on this movie and this podcast tonight. I like this movie more than I thought I would, honestly. I came out slightly pleasantly surprised. I thought it was more fun and like looked and sounded better than I was expecting, and it was about what I expected from a story perspective. Before we get into scoring, my final takeaway is if they were going to do this movie should have come out after season 1 of the show. Yeah. Because this arc for Mando and Grogu doesn't work after what happens at the end of season 2 with them going separate ways, because they've already done this. Din has already accepted the fact that he cannot always protect Grogu. He accepted that when he let him go with Luke. And obviously, then the Book of Boba Fett undoes that, and they're back together. And now it feels like we're retreading a lot of the same story beats. If we got that after season 1, if we got this movie after season 1, I think the same exact movie, I would have liked this movie so much more. Because there obviously would have been much less of the season 3 baggage coming into this too.
Yeah, no, it's interesting because it's always interesting when I think you get a TV show that becomes a movie. And I think the most accurate comparison is the Clone Wars movie. It's hard to take a show and make a movie out of it, and then, well, what now? And I think this is a good example of that, because it's okay. Well, is this just telling a long form story from these characters, and we're going to get more from them in the future in the original form of a TV show? Do these characters have what it takes to survive on their own in a movie? I don't know. Could we get another Mando and Grogu movie? I mean, yes, obviously we can.
I think
we can.
Probably will.
But if we get news of that, am I necessarily going to be stoked to go see it opening weekend? Not really.
I'm not going to be immediately hell no, I'm not seeing it. I'll probably still go see it. I would probably go into it feeling the same way I did about going into this one.
Yeah. No, that's fair.
Just kind of lukewarm, saying all right, let's see what they do.
I've talked about something down a little bit on this movie during this podcast.
I'm sorry. Do you want to score this thing before I ruin it more for you?
No, I do. Yeah.
Right. Do you want to go? Let's do plot, production, performance, and then give our overall average scores.
Yeah.
Let's start with plot.
Okay.
4.
Dude, I was thinking the same thing. It's straightforward. There's nothing particularly.
There aren't any massive plot holes that I can think of, right?
Yeah.
But it's just right down the middle, vanilla.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
It works for the most part logically, but there's just nothing there to really latch onto or care about.
Yeah. Production is the high point.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, score carries a lot of weight here. I'm going to be listening to that score for a minute. I'm going to give the score an 8.
Okay.
Or
production an 8. I was going to go 8 too. I think score itself is probably a 9.
Yeah.
But I think the visuals closer 7.5 or so. So bring it in. Yeah. Call it an 8. And then performances, honestly for me, basically right in the middle of plot and production for me, not terrible, not exceptional. The performances overall were a 6 for me.
I'm gonna give performances like I think I'm gonna give performances 7.5.
Okay. Yeah.
Just because I'm vibing with Grogu. I think I'm liking Rada a little bit more than you two.
I think that feels right. That feels right. Okay, so averaged out for me, that like easy math is a 6 for this movie, which is exactly how I feel about it.
Boy, hold on.
Don't do that. Just tell me out of 10, what is this movie for you overall?
All right, we don't do quarter points here on Between Two Batcaves. Am I at a 6.5 or a 7?
I think you're at a 7, dude.
I do too. Yeah, I'll go 7. So we'll go 6.5 combined score Between Two Batcaves.
There you go.
Between Two Batcaves gives Mando and Grogu a 6.5 out of 10. But it's an enjoyable 6.5.
It's a solid 6.5.
Like, you're going to have a good time seeing this 6.5. Like, you're going to be happy about it. You're going to...
Final pitch for this movie. If you like Star Wars, if you like movies, if you've seen any of Mando and Grogu and enjoyed it, you'll probably have a good enough time with this movie.
Yeah. I don't have anything to add to that. It's... Again, it's just like... We talked about this while we were getting dinner before this movie. Just... We're trying to figure out, is this going to be bad, fine, good, great, absolute cinema? And it's just fine. It's just fine. It's fine, but is it enjoyable fine?
Yeah, it's one of those things where, like, I think the biggest indictment for me is, like, I will probably forget about this movie very soon. Like, not, like, literally forget that I saw it, but, like, I'm not going to think about this movie.
I'll probably watch it again when it comes out on Disney Plus. I'll see if the kiddo wants to sit down and watch it, because she has not seen, she's not met Grogu yet.
She will like Grogu. And I just thinking about another visual moment in this movie that sticks out is when Grogu gets his episode at the end of the movie and he's nursing Din back, and he gives him the salve that Swamp Dweller gives Grogu to give to him, and then Grogu just like nestles up under Din's arm as he's recovering. I was like, that's a good moment. And I sat there, I was like, you know what, your dad, Austin, that probably made you well up a little bit.
Hey, listen, I've been there, Yeah. So what do we have anything else for this?
I'm trying to think. I don't think so. I mean, I'm just kind of thinking now. So we have like a week left in May. This is like Memorial Day weekend, the kickoff to like summer blockbuster season. We got a lot of good fun movies coming out soon. I think next, as far as blockbusters go, is Masters of the Universe. I don't think we'll be reviewing that on this podcast. I've never been a He-Man guy. But Disclosure Day is a week after that, the new Spielberg movie. And then, anything else coming out in June? I'm sure there is. But basically, like, once we get to July, like, we saw the Odyssey trailer again, got chills. That movie comes out mid-July, and then, like, we're just a couple weeks away from
Spidey, dude. Yeah. No, we got a couple big ones coming down and pretty soon here.
We're going to be talking about them.
Oh, yeah. We're going to have to make sure that we go see Odyssey and IMAX. Like, that's going to be...
We might have to get those tickets soon.
I know, yeah. We got to pack somewhere ahead of us.
We do. I'm excited, man. Coming up on a full year here, and I feel like we're just kind of starting to scratch the surface of what we can do with this pod.
And if we're going to keep doing more, we need y'all. We need y'all.
And if you're here right now with us still, that means that we can count on you, and we appreciate you. So thank you, listener, viewer. Thank you for being here on this very special instant reaction episode of Between Two Batcaves. Let us know if you saw Mando and Grogu, if you plan on seeing it. I would be very interested to know if there are people who listen to this episode having not seen the movie without any plans to see it, because that is something I enjoy doing sometimes, is like listening to podcast reviews of other movies or shows that I don't watch, but like they're people that I enjoy talking about it. Like, I've been listening to a lot of podcasts about this season of Euphoria, despite not watching it. I watched the previous. It's actually like really entertaining to listen to people talk about it, because the show is absolutely absurd. But yeah, if there's any of you out there who are doing that with us, let me know, because I'd be curious. We are on the socials. We are on them. We are going to be clipping the heck out of this episode this coming week. So hit us up. We are on TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, the app formerly known as Twitter. We're on all of them at Between Two Batcaves with the number 2. Except the app formerly known as Twitter, where we are at B2 Batcaves. So make sure to hit us up, give us a follow, let us know how we're doing. We appreciate you guys.
I can tell you one thing. Clips from this week are people are gonna be angry because it's a Star Wars project, and whether we say something good or bad,
be wrong. Yeah, exactly. It's very true. So tell us.
Yeah, let us know. So yeah, come back next week where we will be hopefully opening up a discussion about Spider-Man Noir.
Yes, Nick Cage gracing our screens.
Yeah, I haven't figured out how we're gonna do that yet, but we'll at least be giving our thoughts on maybe first couple episodes of that. And stay tuned. Like we said,
Fun stuff coming.
Coming down. We got some good plans, and we'll figure out something fun to do for our year on the pod episode. Maybe we can get like some of the OG listeners in and do some fun stuff. That'd be kind of cool.
Tell us that they miss our old stuff.
Yeah.
Why don't you guys do it like that anymore?
So until then, from our Batcave singular Batcave to yours. Thanks for hanging with us, and we will see you next time.
See ya.